Every 30 seconds, someone becomes a slave. Over 10 million of them are children. It's Friday, 7 p.m. The city is alive. The lights are on, and nightlife has just started. For most of us, especially in the Western world, it's a time to hang out with friends, to just have some fun or relax. But sadly, the realities of life are far different for too many. They are here, walking amongst us, every day, yet hidden in plain sight. They're the 40 million people that are enslaved around the world. It's difficult to grasp the concept of human trafficking. It seems like something that takes place far away from us in remote areas, and it never crosses our mind that a girl or boy in our neighborhood, or a woman we see sometimes at the grocery store, could be victims of such heinous crime. One thing's for sure, if we want to prevent or put an end to it, we need to know what the enemy looks like.
It truly is modern-day slavery. We see men and women being exploited for gain, being treated like property, even things like tattoos that are, we call it branding, where a trafficker will put their mark on a person's body and they're being treated like property. And there's so many correlations to what we've known about slavery.
People's wills are overborne somehow in the process, whether it's through force, whether it's through fraud, whether it's through some sort of coercion. Such that they are no longer have choice, they no longer have freedom, they no longer have control, all of which would constitute slavery. In its simplest terms, it's exploitation of vulnerability. As one pimp put it, if you don't have a vulnerability, I'll seek to create one so I can exploit it.
One of the cruelest forms of slavery, which we will now focus on, is the sexual exploitation of adults and children. We've invited leaders of organizations that are fighting trafficking to shed light on this subject that is advancing in the darkness.
Sex trafficking specifically is when somebody is sold for commercial sex, and that can be prostitution or pornography, and that they're sold against their will. So that's through force, fraud, or coercion. But what needs to be stressed is that anytime a child is used for commercial sex, whether that be child pornography or prostitution, it is considered sex trafficking because children are inherently vulnerable.
Sex trafficking seems to be something that happens far away from us. But is that the truth? How big is this criminal industry? And has the problem reached America?
The International Labor Organization estimates that 4.8 million people are trafficked for sex around the globe each year. We have seen numbers come out from domestically from the FBI and different agencies ranging anywhere from 100,000 to 300,000 children are sex trafficked in the United States each year, but we know that hundreds of thousands of Americans are trafficked. What we have really seen is over the past decade, it's incrementally increasing with victim identification. And so Department of State just named the United States the #1 consumer of human trafficking in the world.
According to the U.S. Department of State, trafficking in persons, human trafficking, and modern slavery are all used as an umbrella terms to refer to both sex trafficking and forced labor. The Global Estimates of Modern Slavery report shows that in 2016, 40 million people were enslaved in the world at any given time, 25 million in forced labor, and 15 million in forced marriage. This means that there were 5.4 victims of modern slavery for every 1,000 people in the world. The report divides forced labor into 3 main areas: state-imposed forced labor exploitation, and forced sexual exploitation of adults, and commercial sexual exploitation of children. Women and girls account for 71% of modern slavery victims. Overall, 1 out of 4 victims of modern slavery were children.
Human trafficking is a huge problem here in the U.S. It's happening on the streets just all around us, even without even realizing that there's people who are selling other people for their own benefit.
Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads area, fluctuates with Northern Virginia as a hot spot of trafficking. In our own backyard, you could stand in one place and throw a pebble and you would find human trafficking.
Human trafficking globally is a $150 billion industry. Sex trafficking represents $99 billion of that.
I think that in America, we have a hard time sometimes understanding the term even human trafficking, because I think that trafficking is misleading. It makes somebody believe that it requires that an individual be transported from one location to another, when in reality, many of these victims will never leave the location in which they were originally living. When it comes to children, we see 40% of children are trafficked by a family member. And so I think that's what's really hard to wrap our mind around, is it's not the red light districts that we see overseas. It's not maybe as overt. It's really a industry that hides in plain sight here.
When you think of the word human trafficking, right, it can be confusing because you're thinking of humans and then trafficking of humans. And so a lot of people mix that up with the word human smuggling, right? So because smuggling deals with the movement of something or people, human trafficking is actually doesn't necessarily have to involve the movement of people. And so if you look at human trafficking as exploiting people and exploiting people to your benefit. And so a trafficker would find someone who is or who has some vulnerabilities, which could be a number of things, and then they take their vulnerabilities and use them to make money off of them, or use them to have an exchange of service.
From the young children to adults, traffickers target the most vulnerable, exploring their weaknesses. And the victims can be anyone from anywhere.
Anyone can be vulnerable to sex trafficking. When you get to meet these women who've come out of it, who are survivors, it's not one specific profile. It's young and middle-aged. It's all races and different socioeconomic backgrounds as well.
Broken homes, foster care, runaway youth for a variety of reasons because of sexual abuse. So think of where young people hang out, where people go, and there can be a place where people are being trafficked.
So when traffickers are looking for victims, they're looking for people who have a vulnerability that they can exploit. And a lot of times they can just sense on a person, especially in a young person or even an adult, a brokenness. Maybe they're not able to look eye to eye with the trafficker, and their head is down. It's the body language, and they can they've just have that sense of being able to look at that person, or maybe they know the history of the person that they're taking advantage of. But they're looking for those vulnerabilities in a victim, and when they see that, they're able to exploit it.
Think of somebody trolling the internet, looking for a young man or woman who is trying to figure out, am I pretty? I just had a fight with my boyfriend. I just have had a fight with my parents. I just had a fight with my friends. I don't feel accepted. Does anybody really understand me? Asking these questions, putting their life out there, and you have people trolling the internet, whether male or female, who are looking for that person.
So traffickers use many methods to be able to lure victims in. We call it the grooming process. So in that grooming process, a lot of times it starts out with the trafficker befriending a victim, finding out about what they love, what they like, what their insecurities are. There's oftentimes a period of them just doing some work of just understanding who the victim is, and really understanding what their insecurities are, or what their dreams are, or what their goals are. And then they start to feed into those things. And as they're feeding into those things, they build a trust relationship, they build a strong rapport with them. Oftentimes, they fast track the relationship and they're talking about marriage and love and those things that maybe somebody who has an insecurity or a history with abuse is looking for somebody to love them. And so they'll feed into some of those basic human needs of wanting to be loved and accepted.
One of the things that my trafficker did for me was he heard me and he listened. And I was sexually abused from the time I was 7 to 14. And my trafficker, I was sitting with him and I was telling him about all the stuff that happened to me when I was little, which these were my vulnerabilities. And he was learning them from me, right? So he didn't come up to me and say, hey, I'm a trafficker or I'm a pimp. He came up to me and wanted to know more about me. And that's what I needed. I needed someone to listen to me. And I always say that he said something very specific to me that really drew me in. When I told him about my sexual abuse experience, he said to me, I'm sorry that happened to you. And no one had ever said that to me. Like parents or teachers, counselors, church community, no one ever said, I'm sorry that happened to you. He was the only person that said that in my life. And so when he said that to me, I felt validated, heard, understood, belonged, right? I felt all those natural needs that we all have, we want to be fulfilled. And so that's what traffickers do. He did buy me things, but what I needed was someone to listen to me. And he knew that, he understood that. And that's how he met my need.
Traffickers become friends of their victims and lure them into the sex trade, where they are forced to prostitute themselves. A few common threads can be found among the victims.
A lot of times in the past, a lot of the ladies have been exposed to sexual ideas at a young age. They may have also been exposed to drugs. Possibly they have had a pregnancy early in life.
The majority of women that we're seeing in the sex trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation, the industry, have a history of abuse. Most of them sexual abuse as children, but also physical abuse, violence.
Prostitution, I think that there are going to be those individuals who choose to be there, and that is prostitution as we historically know it. But I think what we have to understand is that many prostitutes are in that life not because they are choosing to be there, but because somebody is forcing them to be there. They also usually have a past of sexual abuse or childhood sexual abuse or some catalyst. We don't meet any individual who woke up, or dreamed as a child to one day be a prostitute. Usually something has happened in their life that has made them vulnerable to somebody else, forcing them into that life.
I never saw a little girl come into my preschool or kindergarten who said, I cannot wait to grow up and become a prostitute.
So anywhere where there's a disruption in childhood or in developmental years, that makes people way more vulnerable to this.
This leads us to a challenging question that shakes the core of our society. What is going on inside our homes to create emotional vulnerability? Some of the answers can be difficult to grasp.
1 out of every 3 girls and 1 out of every 6 boys by the age of 18 is going to be the victim of sexual violence. And 90% of the time, the perpetrator of child sexual abuse is going to be somebody the victim knows. We're always, as a parent, concerned that some horrible monster is going to abduct my child and do unspeakable things to him. But in reality, they're more in danger from your circle of acquaintances than from strangers. I'd have to say it's the powers of darkness. It's a weapon that the powers of darkness has used against humanity since our conception. And unfortunately, people don't recognize it as a spiritual attack against the moral fiber of our nation, and they're not taking that stance against it. And when a child has been a victim of sexual abuse or domestic violence at home, their self-esteem is destroyed, and they exploit that. And many times a child will go back to the perpetrator of abuse continually. They're getting no love at home. They're getting attention from the perpetrator, and they feel that bad love is better than no love at all.
The cycle of abuse shuts people down, shatters their souls, and destroys dreams, opening a path for traffickers to take advantage of them. Now add to that another enemy that surrounds us every day, promotes violence, and fuels the sex industry like none other: pornography.
Amongst regular users of pornography, there's an incredible correlation between their pornography use and then they're going out to purchase individuals. And then once they've crossed that threshold, then it just increases. Additionally, survivors themselves, victims, pornography is used to groom them, to break down moral barriers of what they would be willing to do. Pornography is used to kind of prepare them for being able to be used by buyers. And typically and very frequently, buyers will bring pornography, bring magazines, bring things, and they'll show them and want the person being trafficked to carry out these actions, some of which can be quite violent.
The truth is that sex trafficking exists because of one reason: there is a demand. So, who are the buyers?
Millions of Americans are purchasing commercial sex every single day. We see the buyers come from all walks of life. We've seen them be businessmen, we've seen them be politicians, we've seen them be pastors.
The buyers are men, women. They're of all different backgrounds, all different professions, every profession you can think of.
Human trafficking is perpetuated by the buyers in the industry. So Johns are a lot of people in our world that we interact with every day. Johns can be people who we go to church with. It can be people who serve in official capacities in our society. Johns are just really, truly can be anybody.
So it's just important for people to make a mind shift about that. When we look at prostitutes, right? When we look at or how we viewed prostitutes, but we never looked at it from the perspective of why there were prostitutes. We just looked at the prostitute, right? I mean, we can go back to the biblical way on that when the story of the prostitute and they were throwing stones at her. Well, who was her buyer? So it's time to look at the buyers. It's time to look at the people organizing this and setting this up. And it's time to say enough is enough.
Unlike other kinds of illegal trades, like drugs, for example, once you use the drugs, it's gone. But sex trafficking uses humans, and therefore they're a renewable resource that can be used over and over again. And so the amount of money that people make off of sex trafficking is huge.
A pimp said once that he could sell a kilo once for drugs, but he could sell a 13-year-old girl 6,000 times a year. And that's why it's so prevalent. It's all about the money. This is a war, actually, on the souls of our children. And the church needs to go in. We need to put on our armor, and we need to go in the devil's den, and we need to take back the souls of our children.
In such dangerous and degrading situations, why wouldn't a victim leave in the first opportunity?
Because fear, they've been threatened, family's been threatened. They've been told that if I disclose to anybody, if I'm a foreign national, I'll be deported. If I'm a domestic, somebody who's a citizen of the country, that if I disclose to law enforcement something, they'll just arrest me. So there's any number of reasons, but it's usually related to some sort of fear, shame, some feeling I'm broken now, there's just no hope for me, this is what I've been made for, this is what I'm good for, because that's also what the trafficker has been continually drilling in. This is what you're made for. And if they have a history of sexual abuse, it just plays into it, because that's usually part of that process too. The trafficker actually brainwashes them into believing that it's their fault, that it was their decision to do what they're doing.
Victims, they don't realize that they are victims when they're being trafficked, because remember, they're being lied to and being coerced. And even once they're being taken advantage of, that's hard to admit that you fell into this trap.
Some, yes, will be physically bound. Some will be tied up, and those situations are horrific, and the physical manifestation of the abuse is there. But I think we also have to recognize the mental bonds, that they are tied to their trafficker in ways that it's Stockholm Syndrome. They relate to their trafficker. They feel like they are responsible for part of their trafficking situation. They are shamed. They are told they are of no worth, no value. And when you begin to believe the lies that somebody is putting in your mind day in and day out, you don't know where else to go.
So the first thing we have to do with a victim is help them understand how they were groomed and manipulated to make them believe that this was their voluntary choice. It wasn't. And in fact, we work in a lot of local jails, and we teach a human trafficking class. Part of that is looking at how the pimp grooms and manipulates his victim. As the women hear, or men, hear how their vulnerabilities have been used against them, the light bulb comes on. And they're then being able to see, wait, this wasn't my voluntary choice. I was processed into this. I was groomed into this by my vulnerabilities because I believed this person really loved me. This person, I trusted them. And then they used that trust to turn it against me, to get me to think that this was my choice.
Hundreds of thousands of people are trafficked in the United States each year, including American children. Only 1% are rescued.
The other significant challenge that we face is that there aren't many places for these people to go once they are rescued. In the United States, there are just over 1,000 beds in restorative care homes for adult survivors of trafficking. In 2018, we only had 100 beds for child victims of sex trafficking in the entire United States. So where are we supposed to put these kids? What hope are we supposed to offer them that looks better than their current situation when we're telling them that they're going to go to juvenile detention, a mental institution? And so when there's no place to go, they stay.
Women, men, and children are enslaved every day. As we have learned, they can be anyone from anywhere, even a girl next door. But it is time for a change. The darkness that keeps this degrading industry working needs to be stopped. As Americans and people of faith, we can no longer remain silent. It is time for the church to rise up, learn how to fight this battle, and live out God's heart for justice.
I think it's really important to get expertise. I think working with parachurch organizations that have the expertise and experience that a church can partner with, learn from, maybe train some of their own people to understand the issue, have the resources and have the referrals that you can give when you meet someone who's been trafficked.
And really what they have to do is partner with organizations that are doing the work. Our organization, for instance, provides an opportunity for believers to come and go through a training, a victim advocacy training, to become volunteer victim advocates. So we provide the opportunity for followers of Christ to come and walk alongside a survivor as an advocate.
The church needs to have the hard discussions about issues that feel taboo. We have to thrust it into the light, because the longer that we allow it to grow in the dark, the more people that are affected, and this has generational impact.
The church community is the best community to address this issue, because there's a term that's used in Uganda, right? Ugandan East African brothers and sisters use. It's Ubuntu, which simply embodies this concept that within the church are all the tools needed to combat any social justice issue, if only the church will be the church.
Put aside your own version of what is comfortable and be willing to love the ladies generously exactly where they are. I did hear once somebody said that if we are expecting people to look like we look, then that is a different gospel than what the Lord Jesus preached.
For a victim of trauma, they just need the consistency of a loving church to show them who God is.
Love them generously and unconditionally, and through that, allow the Lord to work in their lives to transform them.
So some practical tips that we can give to pastors and elders and those in leadership in their churches is to, one, bring this to the awareness of your congregation.
And so the role of the church, I believe, is to surround the community, to understand how it intersects so many different individuals in our community, and be a landing place for survivors, for buyers, for even traffickers. Like, we have to understand how we have to still have grace in the midst of an issue that's really challenging. How do we not shame the buyers but come alongside even them? Because often they are victims of abuse as children as well. And so it's how do we show the gospel through something that is hard and dark, but say that at the end of the day, God has the ability to restore and redeem what is broken in our world. And if we invite Him into it and we as the church rise up, we have an opportunity to truly change the tides of modern day slavery.
When your will is overborne to do something that's you weren't created for, it leaves that feeling of shame and that feeling of like, how did I bring this upon myself? Because we always tend to self-blame, and the trafficker creates that scenario where it's us blaming ourselves, because if we had been smarter or prettier, if we had done this, that, or the other thing, then this wouldn't have happened to me. So somehow I'm at fault, I'm broken. But God wants these men and women to know how precious they are to Him, that He gave His life to deal with the injustice that has happened to them and to see them restored. And when the church acts out of that heart of restoration, without, as the prophet Isaiah 7:58 said, without the pointing of the finger, without the judgment, and embraces, then we can see lives transformed. And so the survivor can know, I didn't do this, it was done to me, and there is help for me, and God does love me. In fact, one survivor put it this way, I never knew that people cared, or that God loved me, but you have proved me more wrong, to the organizations, that were helping her to walk a new way.